First, let me start with a question. How many of you here are thinking of embarking on an entrepreneurial journey or have just started some company or some idea? Just the 3, the 4? ما تستحوا مش عيب، الشغل مش عيب. بعرف كلهم عم بيقولوا لكم جنين بس it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I thought a lot about what I wanted to talk about today, and kind of at the last minute, I decided against going for, let's call it a classical presentation about my business or fintech in general. I think I did well. Maybe I had some premonition. The guys here, Shadi and Jad, right? Shadi and Jad did an excellent job covering the fintech trends, how things are moving from disruption to collaboration, and that's great. I think it's a need to know. What I really want to address today is a key factor that is necessary as a condition, but not necessarily sufficient for any entrepreneur to succeed in their journey. I was going to say in his journey, but I should really get used to saying her journey. Maybe we'll start saying more ladies in the room, hopefully. And so let me tell you a little bit about me, just in 2 seconds. I started my first company when I was 22 years old. It was in 2002. I was labeled by everybody around me as completely crazy. Like, what are you doing? روح توظف لك شي بنك، لقي لك شي شغله، ما انت كثير بطل باللي بتعمله. It's the safer way of doing things. So, needless to say, I've been through a lot. And today, I think, while reflecting on what is this key component that allowed me to get as far as I did today, and I want to talk about it, and it's really only grit. It's that willpower to hang on to what you believe in, okay, and it drives you through this valley of death, because I think every startup, every entrepreneur, unless مثل ما قالوا الشباب انه they hit the lottery, they hit the jackpot, بيعملوا شي اب ما حدا مفكر فيها, like Flappy Bird, for instance. I don't think Flappy Bird maker went through any valley of death transfer, but most of them they do. And the only thing that will allow you to get from one end to the other successfully is grit. Now, that's not sufficient because you need all of the other stuff, انه ذكي وفهمان بشغلتك كلها، بس نحن كلنا هون أذكى ناس بالعالم, هيك. At least that's what our mom kept telling us. So, I saw that the key difference is that there are 2 ways people see the world. I'm going to show you a little bit what I went through in a series of slides and how people around me saw it. Okay, how everybody really watching the news, living in Lebanon, how they saw this sequence of events. So I started in 2003 with all the dreams, very nice wings, fake reactors, and I thought I'm gonna conquer the world for sure. Then 2005 happened. So you have the Hariri assassination, big earthquake in the region. Lebanon was devastated. We thought, okay, يلا ضب الشنطة ونمشي, or at least most people saw it like this. For every single year, we had some major event. And being in fintech, we sell to banks. And as the guy said, every reason is good for a bank to postpone the investment. Because really in Lebanon, one of the biggest challenges when you're working in fintech is that the regulations, of course, everywhere, fintech is overly regulated. But usually if you go to the US or to Europe, the regulation's main goal is to protect the consumer, not to protect the industry as a whole. In Lebanon, in particular, a lot of the regulations are in place to protect the banks. Of course, there are a lot of regulations to protect the consumer, but a lot of them also protect the banks. That's why most fintechs in Lebanon do not have a choice but to collaborate with the banks. So you cannot come up and build, let's say, a mobile peer-to-peer payment app. It's impossible. Like, technically, it should be easy, right? It's a great idea, let's do it. In Lebanon, it's impossible. you have to do it under the wings of a bank. So that's just an example. So every year, we went through things like, بتعرف مش وقتها، بركي السنة الجاي، لا بتعرف هلا كمان مش وقتها، هلا العالم كله خابصة مش وقتها، مش وقتها، مش وقتها، مش وقتها. Okay? So really, think about it. Every single year we had something. So really, if you look at this, you think, where are we living? We are living in the upside down, for sure. For those of you who are Netflix fans, we are living in the upside down. However, at every one of these years, at every one of these events, someone, somewhere, saw an opportunity. And as an entrepreneur, we are always in a mindset that tells us, look, you are in an environment that's overly regulated. That's a good thing. The banks need to comply. Let's come up with the company that facilitates this, that sells this risk plus software, IFRS 9 compliance tool. Let's do it. This is an opportunity. I see a lot of people that are oppressed by the system, that are oppressed by reality, and they are working at the central bank. And they say, شو هالماركت، شو هالفنتك ماركت، أو شو هالفاينانشال سيكتور بلبنان، ما حدا فهمان شيء، كل اللي فوقي ما بفهموا شيء بالتكنولوجي. If only we could do this, if only we could push for that. And they accept it. But some other people have the courage to say, you know what, it might sound crazy, but maybe now that I know how it works, I can see one way to make it work. There are a million ways Risk Plus or Protegris or any other fintech startup could fail. A million ways. And who better than consultants and extremely smart people to come and tell you, but this will never work because you have this scenario where you lose, and this one where you lose, and a million other ones. But there is 1 or 2 or 3 scenarios through which you can make it. And this is the difference between entrepreneurs and other smart people. So we're not saying entrepreneurs are necessarily smarter than others. That's not true. In many cases, they aren't. That's not the idea. The idea is they saw a line and they said, okay, you know what? This might just work. Let's try it. Let's throw everything in it. Let's try it. And a lot of the time it fails, but sometimes it works out. Well, for me at least it did. So, for instance, in 2005, I had my first exit. It was the worst period ever in Lebanon. Everybody was devastated. I saw an opportunity to exit my first company, to sell it for profit, and start something else. So this is where we started another company that actually built. It's funny because it's hard to believe, but between 2005 and 2008, we were designing and building brains, let's say electronic brains, for machines that went on aircrafts, on missiles, on nuclear submarines for the French army. Out of Beirut, Nermel, it's like a kilometer away. So we saw that as an opportunity simply because a lot of electronics engineers got laid off and they lost their jobs in Lebanon. And I thought, okay, how can we use this? And this is how I started my second company, which I also exited 2 years later. Other people were having a good time. So in 2006, anybody knows Yamli here? Yamli? Yamli was started in 2006 out of a need. So Habib then saw a need. He said, I want to know what's going on in Lebanon, but I cannot Google in Arabic because I don't have an Arabic keyboard. I'm living in Boston. I need to know what's going on. Right? So they came up with Yamli because of this event. Had this war not happened, we would not have this nice keyboard where we type in English and it transliterates it in Arabic. Honestly, it saved my life like 10,000 times so far. In 2008, I had my second exit. In 2009, Der Madar was founded. So all of these companies that have exited for millions of dollars, the central bank, 331, so on and so forth. All of these happened while in parallel, in the upside down, bad things were capturing our attention. They were dragging us down. They were depressing us. They were telling us, you cannot do it. You're in Lebanon. شو بدك تعمل؟ روح اقعد بأمريكا، روح اقعد بفرنسا. It's easier. It's better. But all of these people made tons of money, and there are other examples that I hadn't had the time, honestly, to put here. And this is what I really wanted to focus about today, is this ability to see the opportunity in a problem and say, but wait, if this is a problem for everybody, maybe a solution has a cost, can turn out a profit. If everybody has a big problem, it means it's an opportunity for you. If you can come up with a solution, is to sell it to them. And this is what the guys at Risk Plus did. This is what we did in our company. We do payment solutions, we do rewards and incentive solutions. So for instance, we've seen that all of the payment industry in Lebanon and the region has been, has turned became very, very commoditized, and we saw, okay, this is an opportunity. It's a problem for the banks. It's an opportunity for us to say, hey, you can differentiate yourself by doing so and so. So really, for me, the key element in making it through was this tenacity to say, okay, we can make it, and look at this problem. What can we do to sell a solution for this particular problem where we are right now? And all of the other things you know about. Maybe some of you are experts in payments, other experts in risk. You're all great at what you do, I'm sure. But if you don't have that grit, if you don't have that little bit of crazy gene somewhere in your chromosomes, it'll be very difficult to make it. If you have that and you're not an expert at risk, you will become an expert at risk. Maybe by sitting with Jad a little bit and Shadi and trying to get some information from them. If you're not an expert at payment, I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's no longer a problem nowadays. I mean, think about it. 50 years later, in order for you to have been a successful businessman, what would you have been required to know? Business, right? People studied business. It's a thing. You get a degree in business. أنا ما بعرف شو يعني degree in business. What does it mean, degree in business? I have no idea, honestly. No offense to business people, but I have no idea what it means. But it was a requirement. بعدين تعمل masters in business. Great, amazing. Then 20 years ago, executives that had a major in business or studied business, but were tech savvy, had an advantage over others. Nowadays, it's a prerequisite. If you're not a technologist, your company will suffer, your institution will suffer. And this is an opportunity for all entrepreneurs to grab. Because if you go to banks, for instance, my clients are all banks, I can see the gap and the struggle at the very top of the food chain in the banks. And don't forget, these guys, to get there, spent 20 years in the banks. What were they doing in 20 years? Not technology. They were doing regulatory stuff, opening branches, managing risk, stuff like that. So they had no contact. It wasn't important to be technologically savvy, right? Now it is. It's suddenly caught up with them. So this is our opportunity now to grab it, to come and say, guys, we're not here to threaten you as a fintech industry in Lebanon. On the contrary, we're here to empower you. Okay, we cannot go and open a bank. We don't want to do that. But we want to provide you with the tools to compete, to be technologically advanced, to offer your services through all of the channels. I don't know, all of these fintechy things. I think as a resume, really, the 331 was a great thing. As Shadi said, the central bank did something that that wasn't its job. I'm sure if there's a lawyer here somewhere and they really look through the Dastur and I don't know what, it's borderline legal for the central bank to do something like this. It's not its job to throw money into the market. This is not, or through companies, such a vehicle. It's not its job. But it was a great thing they did that, because now the banks have really skin in the game, skin in fintech companies in Lebanon, and now they have an interest in pushing these companies forward. It's not like you're a Lebanese company coming to sell them a software and then there's, I don't know, Moody's or X or Oracle or Y or whatever, as an international company coming and selling them the comfort, the safety net, the whatever they're used to. Now is our time to grab this opportunity, and if we don't, we'll lose it. Simply because if you want to go and sell outside, and for you this is really the holy grail, being stuck in Lebanon is the biggest mistake you can do, seriously, as a market. If you think Lebanon is the market, there is no market. It's a tiny thing, seriously, it's a tiny thing. I'll give you a simple example. A friend of mine was, used to work at McKinsey in New York. So he left to start his new company. He made it to partner, so he's seen a lot of companies. The yearly IT budget of Citigroup, and that's one bank, it's not the largest, okay, was $10 billion a year. That's in the US. I mean, just take a moment to think about it. That's one company. MetLife, $4 billion. So those kinds of budgets are not here. It's a great place to start. It's a great place to go and fetch angel clients, because for me, they're not clients. If you sell to Société Générale or Crédit Libanais in Lebanon, for me, they're really angel clients. They're like investors. They're giving us the know-how, they're giving us the experience, they're giving us the trust, the confidence to build our product and go outside to try and sell it. Fine, if you get stuck in Saudi Arabia, maybe it's a good thing. But for us, really, and having started 3 companies, exited twice, the only way I was able to do it is by selling in Europe. I wasn't able to sell in the US, it was too far, but I was lucky enough to be able to sell in Europe, and that's the only thing that saved us, that allowed us to go through this valley of death that I had depicted before. This is it.